For more information on my programs, please visit masajady.com. That's MASSAJADY.com. Hello, this is Masati. Welcome to my podcast, Exponential Intelligence. Today's podcast episode is going to be on, say, significant health. And with me is it Dr. Jordan Pederson? Is that safe to say?
Doctor. Mm-hmm.
Oh, fantastic. And we're just going to jump right in. It's going to be an organic talk. So why, Jordan, did you decide to get into, well, let's just start from the beginning. What kind of medical degree do you have?
Well, I have a traditional medical degree and a specialty in anti-aging medicine, but I'm also trained and certified as a naturopathic doctor. And then I wanted to find out more about the frequency of life. And so I went to school and I got PhD degrees in immunology and drug research. I was thinking, wow, drugs have got to be the end-all, be-all. But what I learned was the disciplines, not one of them have the total health issues I needed to help my family get well.
Right. And I see that. So it's actually good when I read you've got, say, the solid foundation, of the Western education, but then, you're coming into, the bigger picture of why people get ill and then finding solutions, whether they be, etherical or even, physical based solutions to, and I think that's why we probably got together. You've got the physical components, although, you're coming into the etherical, and then I've got the underlying frequencies and so on that can help. So together, it's a great mix. Well, fantastic. We were talking earlier, before the recording on, well, first of all, how did you get to know me, or what intrigued you about me?
Well, I was helping some patients that had cardiovascular problems, and some of them weren't getting well, and some of them were getting well. And the interesting thing was the ones who had the most severe physical problems, they were the ones that were getting well. They decided to get well. And they told me the reason why, and the difference was because they had listened to you, and they had listened to the mental focus and the detoxification. And one of them summarized it to me, and she said, you know what, the body will heal itself if you can just rid it of all the obstacles. The body naturally will go on and do what it needs to. So she hooked me up with some of your podcasts, and I listened to a number of them, and I learned exactly what I had already seen in my life, which was people that make a choice, have a plan, and stick to it, get somewhere. And the others who aren't strong enough to choose to be well, sometimes don't get well, even if they're not really that sick.
That's true. That is absolutely true, and they create more illness. And I just want to clarify, Jordan, for you and for the audience, is that the choice, a lot of us make, say, physical choices, but what happens is that the underlying programs on the underlying program that dominate us, that's really the key. So people can even be conscious of, say, the programs that they're running, and they want to move out, but then a lot of times it's like, well, how the hell do we move out? I've tried so many things, and then you try to do a lot of physical things, in this case, medical things, whether it's surgeries, prescription drugs, better food and all that. But the choice comes when you get to an awakened level, and that's what I do, is like awaken you, kind of like shake you up. And then your spirit wakes up and it's like, looks around and it's like, wow, I'm not supposed to be ill like this. Life is much grander than that. And the two patients that you're seeing, I can tap into them, and they're waking up and they're going, you know what? I have more to live for. Because sometimes people get ill, and you might want to talk about that. Sometimes people get ill when there's nothing to live for. They see that they're getting in a rut, and it's getting narrower and narrower, basically turning into a grave, and there's no way out for those individuals. So I really want to talk about that, because I think a lot of your clients might be having issues with that. And then they go, Well, since I can't get out, I'm looking forward to, say, the end of time from what I'm seeing. And it doesn't have to be that way. There's opportunities available to you. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. I had actually one of my neighbors had a stroke 3 days ago. We went to the hospital and they said, well, she's brain dead. Her function is no longer there. And we looked at all the numbers and all the graphs, and they sent her home to die. And the family made a conscious choice. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to let her expire. There isn't any brain function there. In the last 2 days, we go and visit her, and all of a sudden we start to see more and more. And she's now responding to people, and she's at home. They totally made a conscious decision that it's time for her to go. And you know what? She's surrounded with over 30 of her family members, and they're just hanging around to say their last goodbyes. It's bringing her around, and she's starting to respond. Isn't that interesting?
That's so interesting. And you don't mind if I read her, do you? Because
no, her name is Eileen.
I could actually work on her, and maybe that's why she pops up. So, when I see her, she's at a certain age, and you said there's about 30 physical family members, but when I see her, there's like a whole group. Their family never crosses over, Jordan. They're such a tight-knit family that even when they die, they hold on to those individuals who are dead. And she's so sensitive, she actually feels, say, those, I don't know what you want to call them, frequencies that are not of this realm, or that essence of death. And then, well, she has to disconnect. So I can actually help her out, and I'll work on her through this session for you. But the thing that I want to bring up, so it seems like she'll come back to life more than ever, through whatever I do for her, and then obviously some of the things that you're doing for her to bring her back. She has low, and again, I'm not diagnosing her, but I don't know. There's something wrong with her white blood cells. It's almost like her body's attacking herself. I see more white than red in her blood.
And I'm not sure. She just had a stroke, and she was going to recover, but then she had a second one while she was in the hospital.
Yeah, so you might want to help her with her blood. But
that sounds great.
Okay. But what I wanted to bring up is that, when a doctor tells you you've got 6 months to live, or you've got cancer, or you've got whatever, your brain is a great materialization. It produces things into your reality so strongly, especially when you have somebody of significance or an authority going, hey, you've got 6 months to live. There's no other chance because, I'm the expert, and then I know everything about whatever, right? And I just see a very low chance. Can you talk about that? Because I think you kind of go through where you've had some fantastic turnarounds on a lot of people.
Oh, I have had some absolutely miraculous, remarkable recoveries, and many of them do energy work, and many of them employ some of your protocols and programs and podcasts are in their life, and that healing frequency of music is all fantastic. Let me tell you how I changed. This is personal here, and if you don't mind, I'll get just a touch vulnerable here, but
I love it.
I was getting a PhD degree in immunology, and I was doing a cardiology internship at the same time. And my major professor was Jonas Salk. Yeah, Jonas Salk, the man who developed he was the one who helped save the world from the polio virus. Yeah. And I got to work with him 1 hour every week for a full semester, basically. And he was my major professor. I was the only graduate student he had. And he taught me the principles of developing medicine. And he took me in the lab one day. Imagine a 2-gallon jug of water sitting on the shelf. Now imagine 30 of them. And they're all sitting next to each other. And they have dilutions on them. One had a lot of virus. One had a little bit of virus. One had a tiny amount of virus. And he said, you see those viruses over there? Every time I would give some to an animal, it would kill the animal. And after 2 years, I figured there's no way I can give an animal or a human any of this little virus, no matter how much I dilute it, without killing them from the polio virus itself. But he said after 2 years, You see that jug over there? And I said, yeah. He said, that only had water in it. It had a little bit of salt and water. That was it. But it sat next to all of my jugs that had virus in them. And after 2 years, the virus had an energy that had transferred across the glass jar into the
Wow.
water. And he tested the water, and that's how he came up with the the vaccine that saved lives, because it had the energy of the virus without having the virus in it. And I learned at that moment that energy was going to be in my life when it came and applied to all the healing that was out there. And he saved the world. They give him credit for saving the world from that vaccination. And I learned so much from that single experience, that the energy of a virus, and viruses aren't alive nor dead, transferred across the glass into just a jar of water. The energy is what they gave us for the vaccine.
Wow, that is so cool. That is, I mean, that's what I do, is, generate and create frequencies, but, seeing like physical evidence, just even provides more, say, opportunities that open up for not only me, but everybody out there that listens to this. It's like, we get to have a deeper understanding of how stuff really occurs. That's fascinating. Is there more information on, say, that study that I could look into?
Well, I think it's in his book. He's written, in his autobiography, that story is written about him. And
okay.
I had the joy of having him tell it to my face. And
wow, that's pretty well.
He was a major impact in the philosophy of wellness.
Mm-hmm.
What I did from that was I took all these studies. In those days, we had paper copies, and I put in a gymnasium floor all these different studies of all this that I'd learned through all these doctor's degrees. And I wanted to know what the concept of overall total wellness was. And as I isolated them into little groups, I came up with 7 components of wellness. And then I gave them each a letter. E for eat, S for sleep, S for supplement, E for exercise, N for neutralize poisons, C for clean water and air, and E for eliminate stress. And it spelled the word essence. And I looked up the word essence, and essence is the most important part of something. So I wrote a book and called it The Essence of Wellness. Eat, sleep, supplement, exercise, neutralize poisons, clean air and water, and eliminate stress. And then I said, the person who does all of this will be their own doctor. They will evaluate each one of those components, and the weakest one is the one they probably need to start on first. But it is a choice, a conscious choice. I see in these cardiology patients, they have to make that evaluation of self. They have to have purpose, and they have to make a choice before they implement this essence of wellness. And you have made very great strides in healings, and you haven't had traditional Western medicine. And it's fascinating how sometimes you have to get Western medicine out of the way so that people.
True. That's true. But Jordan, I come from a family of doctors.
I'll bet that's
my
fun.
uncles were a doctor. My father is a doctor. My sister's a doctor. My other sister runs, the family, at the time, the family clinic. I don't know, other sister-in-laws, they run hospitals or, surgery department. So kind of like that, that virus that you were talking about, it just sitting close, that water connecting. I think I got a lot of that vibration through my father or the family lineage of, healing.
That's actually really true, I think.
Yeah. So, I always wanted to be a doctor. And I went into school, and then the first week I'm going, wow, I don't think I could handle just hanging out with a lot of ill people at the time. Yeah. And when I was younger, sports medicines, things like that weren't, a bigger picture of it. So I didn't even think of that. But now, like you said, I help people from a very different perspective. So, and I have nothing against Western medicine or anything, but the mixture of the two, I think, could be like that's what people are actually looking for. So in today's society, in the medical society, I wish more and more people, or doctors, would like open up and not be really afraid. It's not like they're going to lose their patients or anything. It's just that you're going to have those patients that actually recover, and they'll send other family members and so on. But people think that there's a sense of lack. If these people, it's like if these patients get well, then how am I going to create a business flow? How am I going to generate income? Chiropractors are like that. I hate to say it that way, right?
Well, I see a lot of the medical professionals that I work with, and a lot of them are constrained by the almighty dollar of the insurance company. And the insurance companies haven't figured themselves out. Obamacare hasn't figured itself out. No. And the doctors haven't had the time and aren't organized enough to say, this is how it's going to be. And so they're a pawn in this game of chess, and they're only one player. And if I can go back to Jonas Salk one more time, he looked at me one day and he shook his finger at me and he said, someday you'll understand enough that you'll be given a product that will help so many people as long as you don't give it to the insurance companies. It will the world. And I didn't know what that was. He didn't know what that was, except now that I look back, I think maybe he had the energy and the frequency to know better. And that's one of the reasons I developed the silver product that I have, because silver transfers energy better than any mineral. Silver destroys bacteria and viruses and yeast. There's no man-made product that does that. So I thought to myself, if I just take this all-natural silver that God has given us, that our bodies are pre-programmed to utilize, at least in a physical sense, I'm going to have the ability to transfer more energy in a better way if I can just learn how to use the magnetism, the electricity, all of the different chemical and physical principles of healing. And it took me away from the idea that every healing is chemical in the toxicology world. It took me away from prescriptions. It took me away from all these different things. But yet I see more people using this in a way to destroy bacterial problems and viral problems. And so many people don't know what they have. They aren't diagnosed properly, or they can't figure it out. It gives them one of the tools to help neutralize the poisons in their body, and they have to use it by choice. And that consciousness has to play a significant role. So silver has been one of my causes. I went to Africa. And I used this silver in the production of it. And after I worked in 4 clinical settings, I published my results in a peer-reviewed journal, and it was granted a cure for malaria from an all-natural source. So I've gone and lived this issue. I did just what Jonas Salk said, and I went to Africa, and after years of study and years of helping, I have a solution. And imagine this. I walked into the clinic the first day, and there were 5 babies in body bags on the bench. And every single day that was happening. More than half of the babies die in Africa from a mosquito giving them malaria. More than half die before the age of 5. I said, there's got to be more to this. I've got to give all that I have to this. And so I learned this energy, and I learned the combination of Western medicine and toxicology. But more than anything else, I learned that there's this heart energy that is permanent. Brain energy changes, and people will come to you with that right heart energy. We can help them. We can help them in every single way. So I appreciate your work, because you and I cross over in a lot of different areas.
Yeah, I see that. I want to talk about that silver, because I was interested in, and I know it sounds kind of strange, but gold, like digesting gold.
Yeah.
So I'm just getting into this. So are you talking about like colloidal silver? And can you tell me the difference between what's colloidal silver? I mean, what's the chemical makeup of colloidal silver? Is it real silver? How does that work?
Imagine, yeah, it's a terrific question. So imagine taking a block of silver, pure silver,
Okay.
and sanding it so that little teeny particles fall into the water.
That's
And,
what I was going to do.
and they saturate the water. Or we can chemically melt it down into the water with nitric acid. And that's the old-fashioned form of silver, and they call it colloidal or ionic silver. Then in about the 1970s, they started taking silver and making a colloidal silver that was safer. Then about 15 years ago, we started making silver hydrosol, where we took electromagnetic charges and pulsed it through the silver every 10,000th of a second. So one molecule at a time, the silver would bond to the water molecule, the oxygen. Now we had oxygen bonded to silver, tiny enough to drink it. That structuring of silver then was a strong acid. And I saw people weren't taking it except once in a while because, you know what? This is an acid. The immune system rejects acidic things. So I learned over time in the laboratory and made a structured silver with alkalinity. So I have alkaline structured silver the body uses with the immune system, and it's structured so it can get through the different films, of biofilms of the body, and now it's safe, and now it's beneficial. Now it carries a charge. Now it transfers electromagnetic energy. It does more than just chemistry. It's now something that gets into a red blood cell and goes everywhere in the body, and we measured it. So here's one of those physical measurements for you. We measured it to be 910 terahertz. So that's a way we measured the energy of the liquid silver inside a red blood cell as it travels through the body. It's resonating. It's a semiconductor resonating at a frequency that we measure. And guess what? By coincidence, that's the exact same frequency that the blue lights in the hospital laboratories resonate at. The germicidal lights in NASA in the space shuttle use that same frequency. In our host of swimming pools, they now use that same blue light, that same silver frequency to destroy germs. And all of this has come together not by coincidence, but by discovery. Many people working at many different levels to come up with this. It's quite a joy and quite a discovery.
Wow, it is pretty cool. I think from what I'm seeing, the bonding of with the oxygen molecule really enhances, and it creates stability too. But that's the key, I guess. Oxygen bonding.
You just did 20 years of research right there in one intuitive moment. Exactly right. Exactly right.
Right. It just like magnifies everything, and then furthermore, we were talking about resonances, like pure oxygen. It's almost like, well, that's what pure water is, right? H2O. But pure oxygen has the knowledge of the universe in it, so it helps you like reset it. And pure oxygen is different than, say, purified oxygen, like industrial type oxygens, clarity and stuff. So this is like straight out pure oxygen. And I think that's where the resonance aspect of the silver comes in. Plus silver is pure as well. So now you have, all these molecules that's going through your blood system that are resetting you to your natural frequency. And then if you set obviously your natural frequency, then you naturally, have to create health. So that's pretty cool.
It's fascinating. The immune system, I have a full PhD in immunology, and I still don't know enough about it to say that I know it all. It's so fascinating. I think that it works in energetic ways that we just haven't had to measure yet.
Right. Yeah. And you don't sometimes, some of the miracles, of people getting healed through what I do. And then science goes, well, show me the proof. It's just that, well, No, you figure out instruments to prove how that person healed. It's not me showing you the proof, but you getting instruments that can measure those levels of frequency. So I can
I
actually
just
help
got a
you.
thought. I was just moved with a thought. Is that okay if I ask you a
Oh,
question?
yeah, of
I
course,
just thought
definitely.
for a second here. I've studied many different religions. I've read Genesis. I've read the opening of all the different religious books, and in them they all have a version of the creation. And in the creation, it always talks about before there was light, there was water, and it hung over the mass. And this comes from Indian shaman. This comes from religious books. This comes from the Bible. This comes from everywhere. And I thought to myself, water in some form
Some
existed
form.
even before the land and the light came together. It must be that
Okay.
important. And oxygen is the most active part of that water. So I thought to
Yes.
myself just now, you've got something for me. I'm wondering what insight you have on that concept of the overall philosophy of creation
Uh-huh.
beginning with water and the activity of oxygen.
Oh, definitely. Well, water or water, oxygen, that was before. And, all those religions, they don't go back to the beginning of time. They go back to, say, physical density of this reality, or basically of Earth, but they don't go back and expand into, say, the universe. I mean, Earth is just it's like a narrow segment of time compared to how old the universe is. So that's how all those religions are. But um, the knowledge that I can attach to, and everybody can connect to this because we're all part of that knowledge, goes till the beginning of time. So that in that religion, that's what they're talking about. So water, oxygen, some of the helium and so on, they were there way before Earth was created. So it has the knowledge and the intelligence of, say, the universes around it, and I don't know if that helps you. But
Well, it's really a pretty deep philosophy. The more we look
it is a
at
deep philosophy.
it, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But you're right. And that's why I always say oxygen or water. I do water meditations and so on, bringing in that natural purity of water, because it was here way before,
Yeah.
Earth was a solid mass. But the bigger picture is that I can help you, and this is what I do for, companies and so on, is that you're at this level of consciousness or awareness of knowledge. So I can push you, I can like leapfrog and then pull you up to a much higher level of awareness. So I can, and well, just as we speak, I can help you with that. But then, if you want to do some outside time, it'll really open up like a huge mass awareness that you're kind of bumping against from what I'm seeing. So does that make sense to you? There's you can see that there's something out there, but you can't just access. So I can
Exactly. I
push
have,
you
and to
past
be
that.
extremely just open and transparent,
Yeah.
I've gone to Africa. I've published in medical journals a
Mhm.
natural cure for malaria. I
Yeah.
can see helping so many
Yeah.
children. How can I get to the next level, to
Right.
the next layer of taking it to the world? I'm good at looking at the healing principles. How can
Of
I
course.
get it to the world? How can we get the message out? How can we
Yeah.
help the children?
Oh,
And there's
definitely.
a lot of other things I can see happening on the horizon. I'd love that extra leap.
Okay. Yeah, and I can push you in, and then from that, you'll create like like 4 products that um yeah, you'll develop 4 products in the very near future. So instead of taking 20, 30 years of development, I can help you condense. And that's another thing I do with companies: condense R&D in a very short time. So within a very short time, you'll have 3 or 4 products that I want to say stun the world, and stun you as well. But I can't do it on my own. I need people like of your intelligence, and then help you go further from it.
Love, Joe.
It's really, yeah,
I
okay.
feel a connection here, and I really would like your help. And I
Yeah.
am doing it for the reason that
Mhm.
There's too much suffering in the world. We need to help.
Yeah, there's way too much suffering, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Doesn't
You know,
have to.
and these cures, just like what I do, they don't have to take 2, 3, 4 decades to heal somebody. That's a hell of a long time. That's like a quarter or half someone's life to heal from something. So those cure, I don't want to call them a cure, but whatever you want to call them, really say shift, and so massive transformations coming up for the next few years.
Well, imagine this. In our bodies, our
Mhm.
skin grows new cells every day, and they
Yeah,
rise up a layer and another layer and another layer until we wash them off. It only
right.
takes 30 days to get an
Mhm.
entire new skin, the
Right.
largest organ of our body, totally regenerated, totally
Right.
rebuilt. I want to help people do it with the right tools so they regenerate the proper way. And
Oh,
that's just
definitely.
one idea.
Oh, yeah. I was actually, it's so funny, Jordan, because, I've been thinking about that because, it's like your cells regenerate. You get a fresh new skin every 30 days. But why does it copy from the old pattern? What if you know how it just duplicates itself?
It
Because that's
does.
how regeneration. So why couldn't you reprogram it, you know, at, a frequency level, and then, bringing in certain elements, physical elements, and that'd be your part, bringing in, say, certain physical elements to, say, promote a reset of how that flesh regenerates. So think of the possibilities, because instead of, because when you make a copy, every time you make a copy, it gets degraded, right? That copy of itself. So, and that's what the cell does, and that's how we age. But if you make like an instance of that, so it's not a copy of it, but it's another instance of the original, you would actually like freeze aging, or your flesh wouldn't have to sag when you age, and you'd have still that youthfulness, right? Because you're copying the youthfulness over and over. I'd love to work with you with that one. I'm excited. Wow, this is really
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah.
I can see all these little things. Yeah, that'd be really, really cool. Yeah, it wouldn't. And again, what I do shortens everything. So I want to go to, because I was very interested, because I was thinking of actually, say, sanding gold and ingesting it.
Yeah.
So
Well, let me
what
tell you
about?
what I do know about gold. Gold is a
Okay.
colloid, and they take gold rods, and they're about as big around as a pencil lead, and
Mhm.
they run a current of electromagnetic energy through it, and one molecule at a time, the gold comes off into water. So you could actually buy liquid gold, and people drink it. And in the last 2 years, gold has been the number one pharmaceutical product that has received a patent application
Really?
because they're attaching gold in that liquid stage to all of the chemotherapy drugs. Here's why.
Wow.
Chemotherapy is a drug, and it's a terrible
Terrible drug.
it's a salt, it's a poison, it's an acid. Well, it goes into the body, and its molecular structure is too big to allow it to get down deep into the cartilage, so it doesn't get into certain areas. And
Hmm.
all tumors, all cancers develop its own blood flow, such tiny blood vessels that some of the chemotherapy can't even get into. Yet
Hmm.
gold is so dense that you can get it into such a tiny molecule, and it will
Wow.
carry with it the chemotherapeutic agent. Now it can get into the tiny circulation of the tumor. Now it can get into the tiny circulation of the cartilage. And so gold is right on the cutting edge right now of carrying at a frequency, carrying other elements deep into tissues that we haven't been able to get into before.
Wow, that is so cool. Because I've, lately, last month or two, I've been intrigued with eating gold. So I think, I think part of that too is that, and I want to talk about, they, how they, I forgot. I was in Sedona. I was really pissed off,
Oh,
where they spray. What do they call that? I'm kind of drawing a blank. Where they spray aluminum or whatever for the
Oh
weather?
yeah, toxins on either a pesticide or they're spraying it as it destroys the environment.
It does. So I was thinking, instead of, and I don't know why they would spray or release tons and tons of silver, not silver, but aluminum, because it's just so toxic. But I was thinking, gosh, gold would actually be, but I'm sure it gets pretty expensive, but that would actually help the climate. And then, it drops into the plants and it helps the plants. So when you're eating the plants, right, instead of, eating poison, you're actually ingesting it in a way that it should be, and that'll be really, really healthy for you. So it's a win-win all around. But right now,
and then we could have a new cliche. He was born with a gold spoon in his mouth.
there you go.
She was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. You know where that comes
yeah.
from, right? That comes
No.
from during the plague. The plague was a bacteria. They didn't know what that was back then, but they knew that when they eat food, they would get the plague and many of them would die. But if they ate with a pure silver spoon or silver plate, or their milk came in a pure silver jug, it didn't go bad as quickly. It didn't transfer the plague. So the people who survived the plague did so by eating off of pure silverware. And that's where the cliche, she was born with a silver spoon in her mouth, came from, because those who had money to use the healing principles of silver ate food at a frequency that didn't transfer the bacterial infection called the plague.
Wow, that is so interesting. That is so cool.
Yeah.
I never knew that. So can you buy that liquid gold, or
Sure.
where do
You could just type in colloidal gold, and it's for sale by a number of different people. I'm not one to sell a ton of stuff, but yeah. Liquid gold has been used. I formulated a liquid gold, a colloidal gold with silver. So you had silver and gold. Gosh, I sound like Burl Ives there, don't I? Silver and gold. Anyway, silver and gold together, because I wanted something that was beneficial for people's joints. So I put together a product that had silver and gold together, and the gold would carry the silver into the joint where the silver couldn't get as far without it. So we'd get a benefit for people who had those chronic painful joints, rheumatoid arthritis kind of thing.
And just tapping into my audience, I'm sure they'll want to know what your specific silver and gold mixture is. So if you want to give that information out, or where they could get it.
Yeah, mydoctorsuggests.com. So my doctor, spelled out DOCTOR, mydoctorsuggests.com is my website, and you'll find 11 different silver products. You've got silver gel and silver lotion, silver liquids and silver lozenges. Oh, I love these. When I'm talking and I get a dry mouth, I have to actually go ahead and open one of these up and take it. Now I'm getting silver in my mouth, not just a lozenge, and they're so beneficial for so many people.
I should take that.
And if you would like some, I have many radio talk show hosts at the national level. You know, the guys that speak for 3 hours at a time, and the ladies that are on TV for 3 hours at a time. Oh yeah,
I do that every day.
We made a whole bag and we send it to them. You know what? I'll get your contact information. I'd love to send you some.
Send it to me.
I just love these.
I talk a lot.
And it matters, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
I help the singers at Juilliard, and they have strained their voices, these opera singers, and they're the best in the world. But, that voice, that strain, well, they walk around all day sucking on these lozenges, and I made them a vocal spray. And we can help you as well. But these are the kind of things I'd like to help with. And they're all at My Doctor Suggests. I think there's over 200 videos that I've reviewed different things for. So I hope that helps.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome. I want to kind of jump back, where, especially for kids, where we were talking about an expert or even a parent says something to you, right? Like you've got 6 months to live, or you'll never overcome this. I want to talk to you because I was in, where was I? In Toronto, the past weekend, and there was this really brilliant kid. Uh, Although he was like in his mid-20s, he was very young emotionally. Um, Unstable mom,
Oh,
very unstable mom, and she had decided that there was mental illness in him. Um, and then she had gone to a doctor, a psychologist, or whatever, and they were giving him some kind of drug that I don't know. I don't even know that they can get for like illness, mental illness. What is that? I don't know if you can rattle off some drugs, but it was really like heavy,
they
heavy.
can give him all kinds of different things, from Neurontin for the irregular neurological firings in the brain. They can give him a number of different drugs, from anti-anxiety drugs to anti-depression drugs to, there's all different categories and classes of different drugs. But they all slow down a person's thinking process. They all slow down, and they're like tranquilizers or sedatives. And yes, they can be given. But the interesting thing is, how old is this kid?
Well, he's 22, but he was on this. I can't remember, but it's really some severe mental drug that they give you to keep you just. He was just like numb, you know.
Wow. So see what happens with kids that are 7 or 8 years old, and we diagnose them as having ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And the doctor writes a prescription for Ritalin, and everyone's heard of that Ritalin drug. Well, do you know, when you look at the chemical structure of that, it's basically speed. Legal speed, like the black market drug speed. And you think to yourself, why would we be giving these kids before puberty a speed-like drug to calm them down? It's because their energy works totally different. Once they go through puberty, we take that drug away because it works the opposite direction and speeds them up. And he might be going through this transition at 22 right now, where his body is going through that very same or similar action. Oftentimes, you give a medication, and there's an effect that you see today, but there's also a long-term, could be a benefit or could be not a benefit that's happened down the road. And so those are kids that need purpose. Those are kids that need religion of some thought process,
Right.
bigger, greater than they are. And they need a purpose. They need something to work at that they can feel confidence in addition to all the products that could be given. But
this was worse than Ritalin. This was, where they're mentally unstable. They're in psych wards, and they, like back in the 60s, 70s, they would give this.
It starts with an L, and I'm bringing it up to my mind right now. Anyway, yes, I know what you're talking about. And it's a mineral.
Yeah, but it's like, why would you give somebody that? The sad thing is that because I picked up that he was, they had given him something, but the sad thing, and the sad thing is that this child, he was very gifted when he was young, so he looked unstable. All he needed was strong parents to go, hey, you're gifted. Let's harness this so it doesn't destroy you, right? And I want to bring that up because a lot of parents, they'll go, what the hell is wrong with my kid, right? And then it's like, let's put them on drugs, and then that separates themselves even more, where you're supposed to have a strong parent and pull where it pulls you in and helps you identify that you have gifts, kind of like a fire hose. If you're not teaching your kids how to control that fire hose, that's going to destroy not only the kid, but then your family life. And I think you could have a solution for that as well, and it could be just that silver that you were talking about, giving that to, that would work.
Well, silver, and when I have a situation that we don't know exactly what the solution is pharmaceutically, I often go to the ESSENCE, the essence of wellness, and we give them a self-examination where you take a one-page questionnaire of what your
Mm.
eating habits are. Then you take another questionnaire for your sleeping habits.
Mm.
What I have found with kids in this situation is that sleep disorders are causing more of a mental disturbance in their brain than everything else. And when we got that under control, everything else came under control much easier.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there was one thing I would say with a situation like this is, what's going on with the sleep here? We're looking at our phones all hours of the day and night. We're looking at the computer screens. We know that there's these microwaves passing through us on our cell phones. And then we stay up later and later and later. We don't rejuvenate. We don't regenerate. We don't rebuild. You realize in your deepest level of sleep is the only time when your brain actually rewires permanent memory. So if you never get to that deep level of sleep, you're just living in short-term memory all of your life. So that can lead to mental illness, anxiety, and depression as well. So essence of wellness, self-evaluate, and my gosh, that's what I would do with it. And I take a look at what's going on. Sure, we can do a scan on the brain. We can do a blood test, and we can check for hormones. We can check for all these different things. But it's a lot longer than just taking a pill, or it's a lot bigger process than just,
of course,
now we've got a chemical change. There's an energy that needs to be balanced there as well.
You're absolutely right. So when I see kids with ADD and all that stuff, is literally they don't know how to handle time because they live in another reality, but they're here. Their phones, like you were talking about, although, there's electromagnetism and all that stuff that's going through those waves, it disconnects from themselves. Because when you look at somebody looking at their phone, you realize that they're not there. Their consciousness is somewhere. So that even disconnects them even more. So I was thinking, with what I do, bringing them in, but then they would need, they would need silver or something like that. That's a good electrical.
Well, when we give them 2 teaspoons twice a day of liquid silver, we know that mineral transfers energy better than any other mineral in the body. And that may be I feel like that might be what you're saying, and I think that's a good solution. 2 teaspoons twice a day of a liquid silver is a very good benefit. It's not the cure, but it's going to help the body to start transferring its electrical and magnetic signals much better.
Well, I think, I'm not going to say, I cure people or they'll cure themselves, but the underlying component is that they're lost in time. I can help with that, but then they would need something physical to help their electrical components physically come together. So between the two, connecting back in time, and then, something physical like silver will really bond them together and they'll feel stable. Then the cool thing about that is that once they're stable, they get to see their gifts from a strong perspective, and their gifts will not destroy them. Right? You have to maintain like a lot of energy, especially with the patterns or the frequencies that I run. You have to be really, really stable. So, and you have to have a healthy body. Otherwise, it destroys you. So I always stress, especially with adults, as you start to say ascend higher and higher, this is where I stress better health for you, because no matter what, you're starting to resonate at higher frequencies. If your body can't handle it, your body will get damaged. Because you're just vibrating faster and faster and faster. That's why ascension, that's where it comes from. So you have to maintain health. Otherwise, whatever is distorting you or it's off for you, it distorts even more. It magnifies even more. So it's really important for all of us to be in a healthy state, and then eat healthy as well. So.
One fact I want to add to that, I just felt like, is exercise doesn't have to be going to the gym and working out. It can just be walking for 30 minutes. And they found in pharmaceutical studies that the person who walks 30 minutes a day controls depression and anxiety better than the person that takes a Prozac type of antidepressant drug. They call it a tricyclic antidepressant. And that's pretty fascinating when you take a look at what you just said, because exercise, if you start too much, too hard, too fast, the exact scenario of what you just said happens. But if you take your time, over time, exercise alone helps balance hormones even better than those drugs.
You're right. Yeah, I see that. And not to get off the subject, but, Jordan, there's so many people that pay for lawn service, taking care of their landscaping and stuff. If you just went out and did it yourself, it's the most, you'll enjoy it better. You'll be proud of, your surroundings, but then it'll release a lot of tension, especially working with the ground.
It's fascinating when we link mental and physical. What we get is more than we imagine.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, as we end, time is running out. As we end, any other last thoughts, comments? It was really a pleasure having you.
I'm just so grateful that people are opening their minds to the fact that traditional medicine has its place. Traditional doctors are the greatest diagnosticians. And these fit in emergency crisis management better than anything else. But most of us aren't in a medical crisis 99% of our lives. So my ideal is that you will become your own doctor and that you will suggest what you need based on the principles of wellness. And that starts with mental cognition of what the issues are, who you are, and who you can become. So that's my overall philosophy. And I know the human body will heal itself if you just give it the proper tools. Hey, thanks for having me on.
You bet. Thanks, Jordan. Take care. And then connect with my staff and we'll get together, set something up.
I would be delighted. And I've got Andre who set all of this up. I'll call him. I'll tell him to send you some of our products. I just want you to try them and feel and see what they're like. Check out their frequency.
Okay. Oh, yeah. They feel good. They feel really good. And that website was mydoctorsuggests.com?
mydoctorsuggests.com.
Okay. Wonderful. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you having me on.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
For more information on my programs, please visit masajady.com. That's MASSAJADY.com.